Podcast starts now. There's no way around it. This is the beginning of our podcast. George, how the hell are you?
Beginnings can be fraught.
Start there.
No, sometimes I do wish we could just have one ongoing conversation and an editor could go in and just pick the good parts rather than having to restart it every time.
See, I completely disagree. I love the falseness of the beginning. I love that we talk for 10 to 15 minutes and it feels natural and casual. And then suddenly we say podcast starts now and we're different people. I think that, it works well for my sensibilities. I think I just go into a full monologue. I'm like, since I think in the last few years, I've recognized that I actually am an introvert. And I know that we don't like to have sort of an introvert extrovert conversation. And yet I find myself being like, I need to be alone. And then when I'm in public, I'm performing. Speaking of performing, we're in the middle of our tour.
Yeah. Okay, it's funny. Okay, here's something sort of toxic is, I sometimes, especially in my past, I've had an issue with interrupting people, right? And I would say now I've almost gone so far in the other direction where sometimes when I can't think of something to say, I'm like, good, this is good. It's good that you are just letting someone talk and they are clearly like reaching an endpoint and it is your turn to speak, but just like see what else they say. As you were talking, I was like, I could start talking, but guess what? I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, I think silence is a powerful tool.
No, I agree. But to your point, we are in the midst of tour. We are currently recording right after 3 back-to-back shows in the Northeast. Actually what I wanted to do is I wanted to remember to, in the intro, say, everyone go buy tickets to Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And that way we don't have to record an intro after the fact that goes before the theme song and that people skip and don't actually listen to.
Correct.
So if you are listening to this, it is now the lull before the last leg of our tour. We're talking Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. You need to pause this podcast, open our Instagram, and click on the link in our bio and buy tickets. And then come back and listen to this iconic episode.
Well, what I want to say about tour that I feel like I'm learning about us, and feel free to disagree.
Yeah.
I think we're babies. I think we're babies and even wimps. I think we're babies and wimps.
Wait, say more.
I think I will never forget day 2. We're in Philadelphia, a city that we adore. And we were acting like we had been on tour for months. We were so tired and we were so cranky. And we had done one show. We had done a total of one show.
I know you feel this way. I have a counterpoint, which is it's always harder in the beginning. It's like giving birth to a baby and having a hard time the first day and being like, well, I'm not cut out to be a mother. No, like you will get through that first, the terrible twos. And by the time that little kid is 12 years old, you will be packing those lunches like it's nothing. You will be going to those PTA meetings. You will be going to your job as a successful businesswoman at a community-run bank, and you will be barely breaking a sweat. So just because something's hard in the beginning doesn't mean you give up.
No, and I'm not saying we should give up. I guess I just am surprised at how hard the childbirth of one single show in Boston was.
Well, it's always, no one tells you how hard it is to give birth to a tour.
That's true.
And no one tells you how hard it is to just go to Boston and Philly, 2 neighboring cities, 2 of the closest possible cities you could go to from Brooklyn, New York. Even.
Quite close. And even culturally very similar. And yet, I've never felt so tasked in my life. I've never felt like true. I've been through more difficulty in my whole life.
I want to get your, since we're here, I want to get your first impressions of the first 3 shows. I mean, by the time people are listening to this, we will also have done shows in Minneapolis and Chicago, but unfortunately, there's simply no way to broach that time warp between now and then.
Well, I'm having a vision of Minneapolis and Chicago, and oh my God, they're incredible and star-studded, and everyone has huge revelations. Where am I?
Oh my God, wait. Is that Minneapolis native Lizzo in the front row of our Minneapolis show at the Cedar Cultural Center? Lizzo, how did you get there?
And first of all, we forgive you. Lizzo, they're liars. Every one of those girls. You're perfect. And thank you for coming to our show. No, I want to say I think the first shows were incredible, and of course we are supposed to say that, but it actually is true. I think with me, I live in a bubble. And I'm actually quite comfortable being in my bubble. And there's a part of me that was like, well, maybe I'll never leave. Maybe I will know the same 15 gay people, and we will go to the same 4 bars every weekend until the day that I am dead at year 100.
I love that your bubble has become that you have embraced it as sort of part of your narrative.
I love my bubble. What can I say? I love my bubble, and I think my bubble is beautiful. But it has been nice to get out of my bubble a bit, and I think I've seen that people that live in Boston and Philly and DC, they're not so different from you and I.
Totally. And it's been really nice to get out of our bubble and go to gay bars in different blue state capitals. I think that is something that I really highly recommend to everyone out there that wants to get to know the American voter. Go to various cities in the Northeast in blue states and go to gay bars. The things you will learn.
Well, what I learned actually is that every gay bar outside of New York City is better than every gay bar inside of New York City.
Don't even get me started. And we're talking breadth. We're talking more loungy gay bars. We're talking more dancey gay clubs. We're talking more sort of queer inclusive gay bars and more toxic gay guy centric gay bars. Everything along the spectrum. So far, I have preferred to everything on offer in New York City.
It is insane how there is it is just more fun. It is more fun. In New York City, you have to be a model / actress / singer / regular drug user to get into the door. Whereas in Philly, you can go to a gay bar and be a teacher, and people will celebrate you and love you. And I would give anything to have a teacher allowed into a gay bar in Brooklyn.
When you enter the club in Philly, they say, "Mr. Taggart." Your class changed me. You made me want to be a math major.
I know it's people are less self-conscious. People are more fun. People have a sunnier disposition, and the music is more fun.
Oh my God. The way that they were just playing normal music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although something happened, and I won't say in which city, which shocked us. When they played multiple tracks in a row from one artist.
One female artist who is currently on tour, who we have notoriously felt neutral on.
Yes, and we won't say any more. But I was like, oh, that's how you know you're not in New York, baby. Because in New York, that DJ has a PhD in DJing and is also a Nepo baby and is David Guetta's nephew.
Yeah, and you have to know him personally to get in.
And you have to know him personally to get in. And he has 200,000 followers on Instagram and also has a line of tablewares.
Yeah. There was something charming about hearing the 3 songs from the one pop star that we feel neutral about in a row, because I was sort of I was like, okay, I'm just in someone's living room. There's no pretension here. You can just drop all of that.
I had my coastal elite instinct of being like, well, that's not allowed.
Yeah.
Someone switch out the DJ. This guy's fired. And yeah, I assume it's a man because he's incompetent.
Yeah.
Someone switch out the DJ. This person is fired. Get someone that plays that plays at least 6 songs until the next song by the same pop star.
Yeah.
But then I thought, why am I actually, that's how I would probably do it when I was if I was listening to music on my own Spotify. I'm listening to an artist, and then I'm like, oh, what else is good? This other song by this artist that we are notoriously neutral on.
You know what? I've become a worse DJ than I thought possible recently. I have a new style of DJing where I'll play one single song at a time, and then I'll let it finish. And then I'll be like, what's next?
Can I tell you something? I actually, this is a real shame of mine, is I actually now truly am starting to rely on AI for DJing.
Oh, you do
I will literally do Beyonce or radio.
Wow.
Just fully. And it makes me feel so ashamed, because if someone did that with an art form I was more knowledgeable about, not to say I'm not knowledgeable about music, but with something that I have stronger feelings about, I would be like, wow, you've really given up, and this is iRobot, and you've let the machines win. But sometimes, honestly, it is just easier to press play.
Yeah, no, let them take over. Whatever, who cares?
It's bad. It's really we're all getting complacent in this country.
Yeah. Um, one more thing about tour really quickly that I didn't expect is that both of us are meeting people from our pasts in a way that is very, if we were dating, it would be a rom-com. There is something so like we're filling in each other's blanks in a way that is shocking.
I mean, it's crazy. We are doing a tour of each other's pasts.
Quite literally. I mean,
like I've met your aunt and uncle. I have met Misha's parents. I have met your sister and her family. I'm about to meet your full-on parents in Chicago.
Yeah.
You have met my grad school friends. You have met my
undergrad friends,
college friends, undergrad friends. You are about to meet all my San Francisco friends. At each time, we have a little sort of like meeting of, and you learn a little more about me, and I learn a little more about you.
Yeah. What have you learned about me so far? I have an answer for you.
You have an answer for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What have I learned about you so far? Well, to be honest, I'm going to be open and honest and say I didn't actually meet your aunt and uncle that came to our Boston show because I was backstage when they were there.
But you were meeting you're going to meet my other aunt and uncle in Minnesota. But yeah.
Yeah, and I met your sister. This has been haunting me ever since that happened. You know when sometimes your first thought is just the most obvious thing and you don't have time to think of something more interesting to say? When I met your sister, I immediately said, "You guys look so much alike." And the second I said that, I was like, "You fucking idiot. You fucking idiot." As though they haven't heard that from everyone like their entire life. Yes, they're siblings. They look alike. And that was my first instinct. I was literally like, I've heard so much about you. Again, one of the most basic things you can say. And you look so much alike. And Riley, too.
Well, sometimes, the most obvious answer is the right one.
Yes, but what I will say is that it was so okay. Something that was sort of funny is after the show, your sister was like, "Where do you guys want to go?" And you were like, "Oh, maybe somewhere gay." And I had a moment where I was like, "Sam, it's okay if we don't go somewhere gay when we go out with your sister."
George, it's okay to take up space. And if I'm in DC for my gay podcast, I want to go somewhere gay. And that's valid.
Well, I just want to say I loved the non-gay cocktail bar where your sister took us, and I thought even those little snacks we had were absolutely delicious.
They were.
Anyway, I know I'm avoiding your question, but I want to know what you learned about me through meeting my friends.
I learned the arc of your life, I think, is a push and pull through optimism and pessimism. And I think in undergrad, you were pessimistic. And then in grad school, you were extremely optimistic. I see your grad school friends I was addicted to. They were all they reminded me of my Chicago friends. They were so like joyful and sort of like unironically kind. And because ironically kind is a thing, and they are not that. And but then I met your undergrad friends and I was like, ooh, and these guys I can edgy. They've got bite, baby.
They've got bite.
And
so we hung out with my my friend Adam, who was one of my best friends in college, and famously his thing in college was being ahead of his time in terms of climate doomerism. So it would just be like, well, folks, climate catastrophe is coming, and everyone else would be like, yeah, but what are you majoring in? He's like, no.
Yeah, he was right. Just like our vision of our Minneapolis show.
Ultimately. Anyway, okay, we need to bring in our guest.
Yeah, this has gone
Otherwise,
too long. Yeah.
This has gone way too long. And you know what? Without further ado, I have to say I'm very excited for this guest. This is someone who is very important to us because many years ago, they were the first person to give us press coverage when they wrote about us in an extremely kind article in Vulture. They are, believe it or not, a real-life novelist, and their new novel, People Collide, comes out September 26th. Please put your hands together, everyone at home and in your car. That's right. Stop touching the steering wheel and put your hands together right now for Isle McElroy.
Thank you. I feel like this is proof that if you just I don't want to give bad information to your fans, that if they write enough press about you, that they will end up on the show.
Well, I remember very clearly when you first wrote that. We actually, at the time, were planning on having you on. And then when you had the idea to write about us, you were like, well, of course, obviously, I'm taking my hat off I'm taking myself off the list of people. Like, I have journalistic integrity. And I really do love that approximately 3 years later, you were like, well,
I'm ready to cash in.
Yeah, integrity has a half-life.
Yeah.
We have reached the end of it. I am past that.
Right. And now that you're promoting a work of fiction, you no longer have to have journalistic integrity.
No, it's all gone. I don't get fact checked anymore. It's
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would love it if they fact checked fiction.
They should. They'd be like, this character never. Harry Potter's not real. They're like, magic's fake, right?
They would have to add a little correction, like, so magic is fake, according to our research team.
I think there should be a correction for every word so that each novel has like an exact, like similar, like same number of words at the like back of each novel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great
just
idea.
with each correction.
So, Isle, what's up?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out. I don't know. I have nothing going on in my life.
That is literally not true. You have a novel coming out.
I have a book coming out and I'm like losing my mind about it. It is like very stressful and I've become a monster to everyone in my life.
How so?
I'm the only thing that I know how to talk about right now.
Well, tell us about it.
What's going on? I am preparing for a small tour, so I have no idea how that goes. So hearing you talk about the birthing of tours, like truly, truly terrified me.
Well, let me tell you,
I don't know how that's
life on the road after 3 days. Well, it's tough. I feel rode hard and put up wet. I don't know the phrase exactly.
Rode hard and put up wet. I have to say, I now, because we've done this for sort of a week, I feel so used to waiting for people's live reaction when I speak. And you were saying, Sam, that you're excited to be back in the home studio and back to not having to make everyone laugh with every single thing you say. But now that I'm not hearing reactions, I'm like, all right, so am I bombing this entire time?
Well, I think what I was grateful for to be back recording is there's also our tone does change, and I think for the better. Obviously, we're not going to have like a quiet conversation in front of upwards of 300 people, but I do think like there's a almost like a high energy thing that is like, I think for some people might be confusing if they've just heard the podcast. And I was so excited to be back recording where we can be like grumpy and quiet and yawning again.
Yeah. We are figuring that out. In the DC show, we had the idea to go back and forth on the rows and sort of high five people when we came out, but then we hadn't thought of what the correct way to do that was. So suddenly it was just silent, and we felt like we needed to fill the silence. So what we both did at the same time was went back and forth saying hi, 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 while high fiving people on the way there and on the way back.
I thought saying hi was so funny and in fact a genius.
It was sort of like halfway between a live performance and a podcast recording. Like, we are doing a live performance, but we haven't figured out how to be like, what's up, DC?
Yeah. Hi.
Podcast starts now.
My favorite part was we like ran down the aisle, and then we like got to the other end after saying hi. We turned around, and then there was a pause where we were like, what are we going to say back? And then started saying hi again. And that really crushed.
Yeah.
Were the other highs like really different? Do you think they were like, did you feel like a new person when you got to say it again?
I felt more confident in myself when I got to say it again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's funny because I actually had the opposite reaction where at first I was like, okay, at least I'm doing something. And then when I started saying hi again, I was like, I can't believe this is what I'm doing. I can't believe this is what I'm doing.
To me, it felt like we were doing a bit. I think maybe it's because I've been hanging out with like babies that weekend.
Totally.
My sister's kids. And, that's like how they're just sort of like, hi. So I was like, it's so funny to be pulling from that while
totally.
Yeah. So you ripped off that baby.
Yeah, I plagiarized a baby, and I'm not giving them a dime, sweetheart.
Oh my God.
Isle, do you think your personality will change when you're on the road and live in action?
Absolutely. Yeah. I normally just sort of black out whenever I'm like live. Like whenever I leave my house, I don't really know what my personality is. I just sort of get taken over by whatever people expect me to be. So I think especially when I give a reading, I have like no idea what I end up saying to people.
Well, something that to me is incredible about a book tour, and I will courageously say I've never written a book.
Thank you.
But something that is sort of incredible to me about a book tour is you basically, how it works is that you do a reading and then you are essentially interviewed by someone of your choice or of the bookstore or the venue's choice. So, Sam and I are booking guests at all these places, but they are doing our show. We tell them, what to do. They bring us a topic, whatever. What you're doing is sort of picking various people to like mythologize you and like make like, and be the Barbara Walters to your, let's say, Monica Lewinsky. So And that to me is very like main character.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I've done that for other people, and like I offer to feed them questions, they don't want it, which sounds even more like vain.
Yeah.
So to be like, no, I'm just going to be ready. Like, no matter what you ask of me, like I will feel conformed to like whatever I end up saying.
Totally. I mean, well, the performance of like, I mean, an interview, when you think of an interview, you're like, okay, someone's getting to the bottom of the truth. But it's interesting when that interviewer has been hired by the person doing the
I am paying them.
Yes.
Normally people don't pay, but I pay a very hefty amount in order to get the questions that I want in there.
Yeah, that's good. I would love to see the different package rates. If you pay $5,000, it's sort of a like you're a great writer. If you pay, $10,000, it's you're a voice of a generation. I would go platinum with it. I would do the 50,000 and say you're the only person who's ever written a book.
Yeah, well, for 100,000 they actually remove every other book from the bookstore.
Oh, they burn them.
Oh my god!
So I actually, yeah.
It's expensive, but it's worth it, really.
I mean, placement really is everything. I get so stressed. I get so stressed when I'm in a bookstore. I'm like, let's take a pause for 2 years. No one write a book for 2 years after People Collide comes out. No one write a book for 2 years so we can all catch up. Because quite frankly, sometimes now I'm like, books that I have been like sort of putting off, I'm like, wait a minute, that now came out 6 years ago?
Yeah, it hurts. We got to pause.
Oh, yeah. I'm like a professional and I still can't even keep up with them. Like all of them. And they keep like, and I have to like, and then I have friends' books that I have to read as well.
Totally. Oh my God. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
When people are...
I hope they're not listening. I'm just going to trash all my friends' books.
Should.
Yeah. Who's your most overrated friend?
Moving on.
When people are like, okay, these are like the 20 best books of the year. I'm like, hold on. So you've not only read those 20, but I have to assume at least 20 plus more. Like this is getting a little wild.
I love you going up to like a professional book critic and being like, I'm sorry, you read 20, but where do you have the time?
Here's the little secret.
Yeah.
They don't.
Really?
No, they don't. It's true.
Yeah, they don't.
So they're just kind of riffing. It's kind of like me in college.
If you look at those lists, you might see that they sound eerily similar to the back copy on the back of the book.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Honestly, like, and we don't have to talk about this with you right now as someone who has a novel coming out, but one of my favorite topics is basically like the blurbing ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is, I feel like the average person doesn't really know how it works. And they're like, oh, Zadie Smith. Zadie Smith woke up and was like, I have to blurb this book. It is the best thing that has ever happened.
Yeah.
And in fact, what happens is quite the opposite.
What happens actually?
What happened normally is that Zadie Smith was your teacher.
Oh.
Right.
At NYU.
That is a big one, but I also feel maybe Zadie Smith is not the right example, but it's sort of like you're like, okay, who's going to blurb my book? And then you sort of court them. Often it's someone it's someone that has the same publisher as you, whatever. I mean, I think in Isle's case, actually, everyone did wake up in the middle of the night and call and say, I want to do this. It's so, but for every other
I had to fend people off. Yeah. Everyone was pushing me to try to like get on the back of this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're actually, I heard you're releasing a zine actually of all the rejected blurbs.
Yeah, and they're very bad. Mm-hmm. Like I can't believe people even like submitted with those blurbs. Yeah. You actually both submitted blurbs.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right, we did.
I said
I didn't want to make this weird.
Yeah. They were not literary enough.
Yeah,
they were. Both of ours were sort of like too. Like mine was like Isle. They did that.
Yeah, mine was. I've heard of We Bought a Zoo, but they wrote a book.
Yeah,
I'm adding both of them actually.
Please do.
My website. Yeah.
I do love sometimes like seeing some of the blurbs be. You can just tell someone just wrote it on a napkin and was like, "Oh, I don't have time." Like here, and it's like sometimes a blurb will truly be like, "This popped off the page." Period.
Period. Does the blurb person have to read the book or no?
I have read to the end of every book that I've blurbed.
I think
That's
that is
nice. That's very respectful.
nice.
Yeah, that is my journalistic integrity.
I mean, and to be clear,
But now that I've thrown that out the window, I don't need to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you run in these like literary sophisticated circles, but there's also books that are written by literally like a sort of a B-list celebrity or someone who wrote like 2 Shouts and Murmurs for the New Yorker and knew someone in publishing. And I think those are more sort of like pay to play.
Yeah, exactly. When it's like Ethan Hawke that says like engrossing.
Yeah. Or often if it's like, sorry to blow people's minds, but often it'll be a comedian writing a book and then the blurb will be from the host of the late night show that comedian writes for.
Oh. Okay, we're exposing too much. Some people need to believe in magic.
Bleep that. Bleep that.
Yeah. I've come on here to take down publishing.
Well, it's working.
Listen, I'll honestly, it would not take much. Literally just like
a little tap.
I think it is hanging on by a thread from what I read. From what I read on the Instagram account Publishers Brunch.
Yeah, future historians will look back at this episode as the thing that finally ended publishing.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, put it out of its misery.
The last book to be published is Isle McElroy's People Collide.
Should we do our first segment?
I think there's absolutely no other option but to do that.
Isle, our first segment is called Straight Shooters, and in this segment, we will ask you a series of rapid-fire questions to gauge your familiarity with and complicity in straight culture. That's basically this thing or this other thing, and the only rule is you can't ask any follow-up questions or we will scream at you. So, that being said, are you ready to start?
I am.
George, do you want to kick us off?
I would love to. People Collide by Isle McElroy, or There's a Divide in This Great Country.
Oh, I love that.
There's a divide in this great country.
Okay. Committing friendly fire or recommending to your friend The Wire?
Ooh.
The Wire.
Winning the lottery, taking up pottery, or oatmeal that's watery?
Taking up pottery.
Okay. Soup dumplings or group humpings?
Soup dumplings.
Okay.
Wait.
Are you changing your mind?
I am changing my mind.
Okay.
No, I almost asked a follow-up question.
That would have been horrible for your book.
It's good that you caught yourself. Okay, Isle. Finding treasure at an estate sale or seeking pleasure with an effete male?
Estate sale.
Okay, Isle. Wearing a camelback on a big hike or singing Sexy Back at girls' night?
Sexy back.
Okay. Committing to the bit, admitting to defeat, or babysitting an ungrateful little shit?
Wow.
Oh, babysitting an ungrateful little shit.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and this one I'm actually pulling from the DC live show, so don't get mad at me if you live in DC and saw it live. But eating a bowl from Chipotle or getting called old from someone who's 20?
20.
Yeah, that's what they said in DC too. That
It's true. It's kind of universal.
Yeah, if you ever need community, just move to DC. Wow. I gotta say, it's gonna have to go ahead and be 930 doves.
Yeah, I have to agree. There was such a knowing, it was such a lived-in performance. But, of course, we had to dock you a little bit because
of the lack of journalistic integrity.
Needless to say. And that's pretty much it. Do you
want me to fact check my answers? Would that
No,
be
we have an in-house fact checker.
Can I change?
Yeah.
We have an in-house fact checker, and they actually keep ringing the alarm that everything has been false so far.
Yeah, but the performance was great. So what are you going to do?
The performance was great. We're renegades.
We're renegades.
Wait, is the segment now over?
It's officially over.
Is over. Now you can ask questions.
Can I ask my follow-up question?
Please.
Okay. So was it soup, dumplings, group humpings, or soup dumplings?
Soup dumplings.
Soup dumplings.
One.
Great. Okay.
Would that have changed your answer?
Absolutely. It would have changed so much.
You're right. I forget these writer types. You put a comma here and suddenly it's all different. should we get into this topic?
I think so. I'm actually really excited about this topic, and it is something that we coincidentally have been talking about ourselves. So I'll please, what is your topic and what is straight about it?
Okay, so my topic is lunch. And there are tons of things that are straight about it. So I think, first off, lunch assumes that you have a job. I think it's hard to have lunch if you don't have a job. Yeah. Like, if I'm just hanging out at home all day, it's probably breakfast if you're eating at noon, right? So, like, lunch assumes that you have a suit on, that you're, like, leaving your office to go out someplace. Like, the 3 martini lunch, oftentimes deals are happening. Totally. Deals, very straight.
That's true.
Lunches, when you're younger, packed by a mom as part of a, like, nuclear family. Absolutely. Lunches, I think they name another meal that has a set time. It's always lunch.
Totally.
Right? There's an assumption that it's only going to be at this one moment. I also think, the Lunchable, which I want to eventually get into, is the MRE, the most militaristic of lunches. But it's like teaching kids how to be in the army.
Wow.
By getting them ready for that. Also, the lunchroom, this like site of social hierarchy, where what you eat is decided upon. So I think everything points to lunch being straight.
Wow. I guess I want to push back. You've thrown so much at us already. You're obviously trying to confuse us up top and make us unable to communicate. But I want to start with the having a job part. To me, this is complex because I like to skip breakfast or say I'm skipping breakfast and almost pretend almost like I'm covering up a secret that I woke up at like 10 or whatever. I'll be like, you know what? You don't deserve breakfast. You get lunch now. And I like to skip breakfast as punishment and have lunch instead.
Okay, but punishing yourself for not having a job is also straight. You're like, why can't I just be normal like my father?
No, that's actually true.
But does that lunch become breakfast though? Like that?
I mean, that's
this is the thing.
Yeah.
I think lunch is defined, yes, by the time, but also by the type of food. And I think if you're eating an egg, for example, at noon, it's breakfast. But if you're eating a turkey sandwich at noon, it's lunch.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're eting a turkey sandwich at 9 a.m.?
Then you're insane and you're off your rocker. Then you're the Joker and you need to be locked up.
I mean, when Sam and I were talking about this, I did make the argument that lunch is the straightest meal, and Sam, you pushed back, if I remember correctly.
I thought you thought breakfast was the straightest meal because that was like getting up, having a meal for your job.
Oh, okay. For me, lunch is like, I think I'll point into this, but it is the most regimented meal in some ways. It is the meal that is most represented by fast casual dining, for instance. Like
sure.
It is the one that you're most likely to get a pret-a-manger wrap for. You're most likely to get a sweet green salad for. You're most likely to go to a Dig Inn. It's all like packaged food. It's like it's a salad that you then have to shake to get the dressing in there. It's a sandwich that you have to unwrap, and then, a tomato falls out and onto your white pants. There is less joy to it. You are always on the go. And also, the other thing is, it signifies the end of the optimism of the morning and the beginning of the sort of like slow march to death that is an afternoon in an office, where you're literally like, it is 2:30 p.m., 3 p.m., and you're like, I might die here.
Yeah.
You're starting to get sleepy. Things are like, bad things are happening. Yeah.
I mean,
and you're thinking about a snack.
Yeah. Too. I think, but at lunch, I'm sorry to be so passionate, but passion is beautiful. A lunch is like, so the food could be anything, I feel. Like, it has the widest range of food that it could be. Like, yes, there's traditional, but you could also have curry, and it would be like, that's lunch. Like, you could have...
I guess, yeah. Sorry, I'm passionate and I am going to interrupt you.
Please.
Because I feel like we actually had this exact conversation.
We did have this exact conversation.
No, dinner is the most versatile. I mean, to me at dinner, you can have any nationality and ethnicity, it can be anything from like a vegan meal to like a steak and a glass of Cabernet.
But you're insane because you can't have like eggs for dinner without someone being like, I'm having breakfast for dinner. Like
first of all,
they're saying I'm having breakfast for dinner.
You can have it. Watch me have a tortilla española, sweetheart, for dinner. And also, by the way, let's say you can't have eggs. Okay, so you can have everything basically but eggs. Like that's sort of the only thing. Basically everything but breakfast food is.
What about a quiche?
I think
doesn't that count as eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's eggs, but that's like you can have a quiche for dinner, or
you can have a quiche for dinner.
Yeah,
I've never heard of anyone having a quiche for dinner.
I think absolutely dinner is the meal that allows the most variety. Even if you literally take out all egg dishes, if you take out pancakes, whatever else, most restaurants are restaurants where you go to for dinner, right?
But isn't that what makes it straighter? Is it's like so much more defined. Like a lunch is sort of like this free for all where it's like figure it out, like I don't know what to do. Like a restaurant is it's more like there's a tradition, there's a path you follow generally.
I
think
there's more of a path.
This is the most confused I've ever been. No, you know what's funny? Okay. You know what's funny is I'm like as ardent as ever that I'm right, but I'm like if I keep fighting back, I'll just be like yelling.
No,
I literally want
to
be like
the end of publishing and this podcast.
I was literally about to be like, no, Sam, lunch is more recommended. We just don't go into an office so we don't experience it. But it's literally like, I mean, I remember when I used to go to an office, I would just decide every day, like, am I going to go to Sweet Green, Dig In, or the little campus cafe? Because I work by a college campus where I could get like the daily soup. But those were my literal 3 options every single day with no other option.
But George, this isn't just for people in offices. This is for all people.
You're being inclusive. Okay, but I guess... Okay, well, maybe...
I think, George, but there's something so straight about that pessimism. Right? True. That, like, this is the only thing that I have to live for is whatever comes next, right? That sort of like hopeful, like, I have nothing in my life except a meal, which seems like very like dad coming home from work. Like, that's very like 1950s, like Revolutionary Road, right? Like,
yeah, totally. Coming back, cheating on your wife. Okay, maybe the solution here is sort of splitting the difference and being like, if you have a job, lunch is the straightest meal. But if you don't have a job, you are so liberated that actually lunch can be so many things. But then dinner, you're like, well, now I finally have to get it together because it's my first time leaving the house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like dinner is the lunch of people who are not traditionally employed because that is when they have to like plan around other people's schedules.
That is so true. That is it. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, we've agreed on it. Okay.
I think we've agreed. That was actually, we have not argued like this ever on this podcast. I know.
I don't know why I felt so passionate.
But I did too. It was mutual.
That was very, you should like do treaties.
Yeah.
You know what else though? I actually think, Sam, you do have more of a sense of joy when it comes to lunch. Whereas I really am like, even now that I don't have an office job, but I'm literally like, for me, lunch is sandwich or salad. I cannot remember the last time I didn't have either a sandwich or a salad for lunch.
So would it be weird if I like called myself out as the StraightioLab historian?
Please,
in this?
Tell us.
Yeah, because Sam, you have said in the past that lunch is the most difficult meal.
I think
and I believe in your Alison Roman episode, you talked a lot about how much you hated thinking of a lunch.
Thank you for bringing this
and
up.
How difficult it is.
I'm sensing internalized homophobia. Oh, lunch is gay and I hate it.
No. The thing is, that's why I hate it. There's too many options. You can do anything. There's no right way. And
Sam is like LGBTQIA. Honey, I can't keep up. That's Sam about lunch.
I wish the military would distribute a bar of protein for me to eat every day at 12:30 p.m. at lunch.
Lunchables.
Essentially.
Yeah. Right.
I spiral so hard at lunch. I have lost all momentum with my day at 12:30 because it's like, okay, well, I can either, make something that will taste horrible, or I can spend roughly $30 on something that will taste mediocre. And I actually, one, I want a dining hall again. Two, I want military issued protein. Three, like a fast casual. I wish I had a Sweet Green next to me so that I could not have to think about lunch every day and, butch up my lunch experience.
Totally. This is so fascinating because we really are coming at this from the opposite perspective. It's like I'm coming at it as from the perspective of like a recovering office worker who now doesn't have to go into an office and is sort of figuring it out. And you're coming at it from someone who has always been on the outside looking in, saying, "I wish there was a Sweet Green."
What do you do for lunch?
I normally eat an egg for lunch.
Wow. Wait, a single egg?
I will make a single egg I love doing like where you cook an egg inside of bread.
I love that too.
Yes. Yeah. So it's so fun, right? Like, fun. Do you have a name for that?
Oh, somebody told me once one that was it like Frog in the Hole or something like that, or
that sounds right.
Yeah, I had
Toad in the Hole. That's it.
Yeah. So I've heard other names, but they're not as good as that one. But I'll do that, and I'll put like a bunch of siracha or like chili crisp on it, and then I just sort of like pick it up and eat it, and maybe like a kale salad that I'll make myself.
Yum. Okay, I love
that. You are being so like health conscious.
I know,
sort of Cobble Hill based influencer.
Hearing that, I was like, oh, you live in Paris, like. Amazing. And it was like, I don't know how I stay so thin. Like,
well, okay, that is the other ideal of a lunch, and I'm so glad you brought it up, Sam, which is basically like the effortless European lunch.
Yeah.
Like when sometimes I will just literally make like, and I actually never do this when I'm here. I do this when I visit my parents and I'm just like alone and I don't drive. I'll literally make like 2 hard-boiled eggs, cut up some tomatoes, some feta, and then just like drizzle some olive oil on top of it and sort of like have that on the balcony.
Well, that sounds
that
so chic.
is LGBTQ+, I think.
But I find hard-boiled eggs so difficult. There's something about the waiting that like destroys me.
I agree, actually.
I would say
I want to be an active participant.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like I want to be flipping the egg. Like,
I get it. Cooking a hard-boiled egg is like voyeurism exhibitionism.
Yeah.
You're like watching the egg do all the action and you're not a part of it at all. You're just like, let me know when you're done.
I will cook 6 of them and keep them for later, but I can't do like 1 or 2 at a time.
Well, you're right. The egg is like, I'm close. And you're like, fuck yeah.
And you're like, just let me know when you're done, babe. I love that.
Whereas in the other one, you're switching positions, you're flipping it over. You're like, yeah, you like that, don't you, egg?
Wow.
And it can still come, like depending on how long you cook it.
Okay, that is actually a very good point because in both cases, an egg can come prematurely.
I have a solution though for lunch.
Okay. Please.
It occurred to me that this might actually be called the Kinsey scale for lunch in the future. So here's the scenario. Let's say 2 people, George, Sam. You decide to have lunch with each other one day.
Unlikely after this episode.
You get to the restaurant. George, you're really hungry. You order a surf and turf.
Yeah.
Sam, you order a sliced cucumber with like a side of salt water because you're not that hungry. Mm-hmm. And George is humiliated, right?
Yeah.
Like, like Sam, you have to eat really slowly. George is eating really fast so that you can get out of there. You only have half an hour, right? The problem is there's only one name for lunch. So you have very different ideas for or the same word for very different meals. So I'm introducing lanch, which is a very small lunch. And then lunch, which will be the medium size.
Okay.
And then launch with an O for a very big lunch.
Okay. Lanch, lunch,
launch.
Okay.
Yeah. So like George, if you went to Sam and you're like, hey, do you want to grab launch? And Sam's like, no, I need lanch today. You'll go your separate ways. And wait until you like align with each other.
I see.
Yeah.
So my sort of like tomato feta drizzle of olive oil, that is firmly lanch.
Yeah.
I think that's lunch.
That's lunch.
I would say a turkey sandwich is lunch.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I would say if you put those things onto bread from the first one, it would become lunch.
Becomes lunch. And then launch is like the Anna Wintour meal of having a steak and a caprese salad.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
See,
once a steak is involved, you can't, it's always launch.
Yeah. I never feel more like, I don't know, toxic diet culture than when I'm like, I can't have red meat for lunch. That's lunch.
I think this actually would solve so many issues. George, it's a funny example that you bring up because George and I do have very, very different ideas. Like George likes to eat sort of like like late-ish breakfast, I would say, and then like a very small little lunch snack. And like I'm always like I like basically skip breakfast and then get a lunch. And it causes issues between us when we're out on the road.
Well, I'll say this. Okay, I'll say this. You know, in my home, I will have again. I'm like I didn't realize how unimaginative I am because in my home I have either yogurt or cottage cheese for breakfast. Then I have a sandwich or a salad for lunch, and then dinner. It's literally like finally I can be me. I'm a firework baby.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Born this way.
Well, are you saving your creative energy for other things?
I think so. Yes, I think so. But I do think when Sam and I are out, that is when I get too creative. And so often we'll have and with dinner too, so often Sam will have a normal dinner at a normal dinner time. Let's say we have a show at 8. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to get a Chipotle bowl at 6:30 so I can eat and then be ready for the show. And I will just be like, does not compute, like show and dinner. I can't do. And then suddenly it'll be 11 p.m. and I haven't eaten and I'm drunk because I'm drinking on an empty stomach. And I have to make everyone go to a bar that also has bar food.
Yeah, I do find that confusing. It's that thing too because you are self-aware about it. And then it's like, okay, but if you're self-aware, then should we change it?
I'm self-aware, but then you see it happening and you're like, here he goes again. It's like when we were trying to get dinner before that DC show and I was like, oh, I'm okay. And you're like, Jesus, okay, fine. I guess I'll go.
But you also do the toxic thing of you're like, well, I'll walk with you. There's like, you could literally just order something.
I walked with you and then didn't get something. And then on our way back, I was like, maybe I'll find something else on the way back.
Sam, how does it feel to work with someone who won't help themselves?
It's tough. It's tough for me because I just want to help, but he doesn't let me.
Yeah.
And so I just have to watch as he.
You know what though? With the launch of the lunch, look what I'm about to do. With the launch of the lunch spectrum, I think all of this is going to change because there's going to be some clear communication, and there is going to be some healing.
And finally, I also do want to say, now that I know that you have an egg for breakfast or for lunch often, I do see why you see the confusion between breakfast and lunch. Now I see.
I do often skip breakfast. For breakfast, I'll normally eat like a cookie, like a single, possibly 2. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the pastry for breakfast thing is interesting. Like how it is completely normal to have essentially a slice of cake for breakfast, like a slice of truly the equivalent of birthday cake for breakfast, just because it has like some banana and nuts in it.
Yeah. I've been struggling because there are some times when I'm like, I want a donut, but it's never the right time. Like, it's never like any good donut place is out of good donuts by noon. But it's like, but I don't want it in the morning. Essentially, like the only time I want a donut is like for dessert after like a decadent meal. But that never is an option. And so I'm left wanting my whole life for a donut, but never at the right time.
Huh.
There should be an afternoon donut shop that opens at like 1 p.m. and is only open until like 5.
You know what? I would take that one step further. I would take that one step further and say there should be afternoon bakeries of all kinds. Because the idea that you want, other than bread, which I understand is, you want in the morning, the idea that you would want a baked good fresh in the morning makes no sense. And by the way,
a chocolate croissant wearing you down.
Exactly. And also, it's such a stereotype in that industry, like, oh, everyone has to wake up at 3 a.m. to start baking. Well, guess what? Honey, sleep in. We're not in a rush. Be ready by 4 p.m. and we can talk.
Yeah. I think that's genius.
We've solved a lot of society's problems.
I completely agree.
Over the last hour.
I can't believe it. So we're getting rid of books. We are, except for yours.
Yeah.
We
except mine.
Yeah. The lunch is a spectrum, and pastries available in the afternoon and even
in
evening.
the afternoon. Yeah.
Wow. Any other ills?
What's going to happen to ice cream? I don't know.
Ice cream's on the chopping block. Tell you what.
I do want to say,
yeah.
I have sort of one final point on eggs, which I just thought of. To me, if you have 1 egg or 3 eggs, that is LGBTQ plus. 2 eggs is the straightest number of eggs you can have, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's just like a classic couple.
Yeah.
Right? Like those 2 eggs are obviously straight married.
Exactly.
Like when you see them, like both sunny side up.
It's so like all-American diner. It's so I don't. You either have 3 and it's a meal, or have 1 and you're in Paris.
Exactly. Because I also think the 2 eggs are there, and they're always next to the potatoes, which are children, and the like toast, which is the house.
The house. The house.
Oh, the house. Yeah. Or the plate is the house, and toast is
the yard.
The pool.
And guess what? Bacon is the smoke, the toxic smoke that's polluting the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just rising up in those little waves.
Exactly, in those little waves.
It's out of the chimney, right? It's all of the books that family is burning.
Exactly. That's the darkness they don't want you to see.
Yeah.
Wow. Sheesh.
And but I do think, there is really, and I say this as someone who loves a diner breakfast, but the image of a classic American breakfast is so conservative and Republican coded.
Yeah, but it's conservative Republican coded in like the Lana Del Rey way now. It's almost like chic.
Totally. You're right. Okay, so then,
but what is more conservative though, sausage or bacon?
Sausage. I think.
Yeah.
Sausage feels more military for some reason.
Yes, definitely.
But what if it's not a link? It's like a
patty?
A medallion.
Oh.
Yeah. I think a link is definitely the most conservative.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I think the most LGBTQ plus sausage is like on a pizza, like the little bits, because they're diverse, they're all different.
Like when they're crumbled?
Yeah, when they're crumbled.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, if you're getting a pasta and it's literally like sausage and broccoli rabe, that is...
Yeah.
That's essentially, that's the queerest, that's Sam Smith winning an Oscar.
Okay, really quickly about I am curious about, I think late lunch, I want to say, is queer.
I firmly agree. And that's why I always have a late lunch. And Sam hates that about me.
George, our schedules are always different, I will say.
No, they are. It's true. Although, they are. And it's funny because I do think Sam is more right than I am in his schedule, and I will say that openly. But I also think, don't you think, Sam, that, okay, I feel like the undercurrent is always like you being like, why is he being so insane? And me being like, why is he being so strict?
Yeah. Well, you are always in a constant state of breaking the rules. And in a way that is like, I see the instinct. I have been there.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're just making life harder for yourself.
Okay. In my defense, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, because I'm really glad we're bringing it up. Here's where I think all this comes from.
Okay.
I grew up, in Greece. I grew up in a Greek family, and in Greece, lunch is at, I would say, even like 3, and dinner is at like 9. Okay. I obviously can't just like live in America and have that schedule. It would be crazy, because then no one would want to like eat with me. So I'm basically constantly torn between assimilation and liberation. And so I never even make a decision. It would actually be healthier if I was just like, this is my schedule, I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to be the weird person that has lunch at 3 and dinner at 9. I'm not doing that, but I'm also not committing to the American way. So I'm just constantly frustrated and constantly hungry.
You have meal paralysis.
Yeah, I have meal paralysis.
Wow.
Does that sort of help explain...
Look, you don't have to explain yourself to me.
I'm surprised you didn't already understand that, Sam.
I know. Well, sometimes you need an actual real life novelist to help you understand your own psyche. And that's why fiction is so important.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's more true than nonfiction.
Yeah. Well, the
fiction is the most important thing in the world.
Wait, our fact checkers are actually beeping in, and they're saying it's not the most important thing.
No, it's more important. Yeah, it teaches people how to love.
I want you to write a sort of speculative fiction novel about the new lunch paradigm and maybe it's like a society where people are divided and ranked according to which type of lunch they have.
Yeah. Like the Divergent series, but for lunch.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but for
like
lunch.
for lunch. Yeah.
And then there's even a slur that's like someone calling someone else like a toad in a
Like
hole because
Yeah.
they're a lanch person and
Yeah.
therefore weak.
I want to say one more thing about lanch. And maybe I need to work on trusting others. But when someone is eating when someone is eating a lanch, there's always something in the back of my head that it's like, you're gonna be hungry in an hour. Like, and I'm like, you're gonna be hungry in one single hour, and I'm gonna be paying the price because
once again, I know you're talking about me.
I was gonna say, like, is that person your toddler? Like, what do you
no, this happens all the time. People like, this isn't just you, George. This happens like people are like, oh, I want like a cute dinner, and it's like,
totally
okay, like I see how that was cute, but also you must understand we are about to be starving. And I'm maybe too food as fuel oriented. And don't get me wrong, I wish I could be set free from that. Like I said, all I want is my government issued meat. Well, protein doesn't have to be meat.
Well, wait, yeah.
So wait, I want to ask, like, have you ever been in a situation where someone has a small lunch and you know it's because they actually have a better meal coming later? And you feel like you're the person who's like, they're like, oh, I just fit you in. I'm only going to be having like a muffin at this lunch because like they don't respect you enough to like have a true meal with you. Like you went there thinking that you were on the same playing field.
Isle, this has never ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you right there. Don't you wield your little words with me, wizard. Like,
okay, you know, we are running out of time, but now I'm like, we recently had a moment, Sam, where I feel like you were faced with your own like rigidity, and it is the following. It is when we were going to go to the movies, and we did, in fact.
Yeah.
And basically, someone in our group had a Resi notification, which is sort of like if something opens up, then you get the reservation. And the meal would have, in fact, been like at a really nice restaurant and heavily discounted. I won't say more. And basically, the reservation opened up at 9 p.m. And I was like, oh my God, like we should go. It'll be right after the movie. And the way you seemed so uncomfortable when we got drinks before the movie, because I knew that you were like, this is not right. This is not right. This should be dinner time.
It's not. Okay. I think, yes, the rigidity was there. But in my defense, I felt like that was more, one, it was a Monday and I was very tired. And I was sort of like I was even questioning like how social I could be. And so I was like, okay, this turned into a bigger thing. And I was like, I think I'm going to be sort of unfun come 9:30 p.m. Because it wasn't necessarily the food thing. It was more like the change of plans where I was like, I had mentally prepped and then I was like, okay, will I be able to stay up and active till 10 p.m.?
Yeah. No, see, my thing is like, if someone texts me at any point and is like, hey, I have I have a special coupon where you can go on a boat at midnight and have a pizza. I'm like, that sounds really unique. I'm there. Like and this is sort of like the positive side of my more chaotic, let's say, timing when it comes to food is like I'm basically always down for anything and I don't care what time a meal is.
Yeah.
But then that also means that, I sort of always have a tummy ache.
Oh.
Well, anyway, I think we have unlocked a lot today. Isle, do you have any final statements or pronouncements about lunch?
Lunch is dead.
Wow.
After all of that, after you invented 3 types of lunch, you're
lunch, and launch.
I'm taking it down. I invented it. No, I just want to say that these 2 new words need to get into the lexicon immediately.
I agree.
Right? It's the only thing that's going to solve climate change.
True.
It's the only thing that's going to bring us together, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is why we can't even speak to each other. Because the divide is so big. The divide is there and we don't even know it's there because they're using the wrong words.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think what you're doing is basically like a queering of, it's like we have one word for something and there should be 3.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like sex used to be the word for only heterosexual sex, right? Yeah, exactly, right. And so now we have more. So this is going to do for lunch what
what it's going to do for lunch what the LGBTQ acronym did for gender and sexuality, I think.
Yeah, the acronym will be LLL.
That's right. It's not the most
it's confusing, but people will figure it out. People are smart.
Yeah, people might put them in the wrong order sometimes.
Yeah. I think this episode has been so heated and I think interesting in a way that feels brand new.
Yeah. This is your pivot to Crossfire style. Yeah,
I love the fact that Sam and I are different. Like,
I know.
It adds excitement. Like, I love accompanying him while he's getting a Chipotle bowl, being like, I'm probably not doing the right thing here, but like, he's also allowing me to just like sort of go with my gut.
Just to quash any fears,
yes,
I do want to say, before, since this has been such a contentious episode, George and I do travel very well together.
We really do, actually.
Yeah. And we give each other space, but we're also always like, but I'm down to hang if you want.
Totally. I also think the fact that we're having this conversation now and it's like, we are both essentially on the same page about the entire vibe.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay with it.
Yeah.
I think is like a great sign.
Yeah.
At no point am I like frustrated that there's a difference.
No. It plays into our types in a funny way.
Totally.
Well, should we do our final segment?
I think it's time. And you know what? I have one, actually.
Oh, do you want to describe it and then do yours?
Sure. Our final segment is called Shoutouts. And in this segment, we pay homage to a classic straight tradition, an oral tradition, if you will, which is the radio shoutout. You're at TRL, you're at Z100, and you are shouting out to your squad back home. And I can go first. What's up, all my several summer travelistas? I want to give a shout out to train travel. I have to say, in the first leg of this tour, we took some planes and we took some trains. And when I tell you that when I'm on a plane, I literally feel like I am in the lowest tier in the Hunger Games. I feel like I'm being shipped somewhere in order to be murdered in front of in the public square. Whereas when I'm taking the train, I am upper class. Even though I have a coach ticket, I feel like I'm in the first class cabin. It is perfectly air conditioned. I can go to a train station literally using public transportation instead of paying $150 million for a lift. I'm at the train station and suddenly I'm literally in like an old church/bank. It is the most beautiful building I've ever seen. Every single train station is the most beautiful architectural building I've ever seen, and there should be tours there led by a PhD in art history. The food options are better than airports. The air is fresh and not recycled. It is cheaper. I can take out my laptop and do work. I am even sitting next to someone. I don't feel like squished. I don't feel like, oh no, our knees are touching. I feel confident. We are family and we are having a conversation about the news and agreeing. And I was telling this to someone and they were like, oh yeah, that's because you were on the Northeast Regional, which is the only train that works well in America. Well, here's my challenge to Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation. How about we scale that, mama, and make more trains all around this great country so I can go wherever the hell I please on a train, in a good mood, and on my way to a huge stop on my tour as a podcaster.
Woo! I have to fully agree with that. Trains, when they work, there's nothing like it.
Am I right about the train stations? I'm like, every train station I was in, because I was in three. I was in Philly, DC, and New York, at Moynihan. I'm like, this is like, it's like that meme that's like society if, XYZ, and it shows you like a futuristic society.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
I think they're working because people aren't taking the trains.
Totally.
Oh.
Like that's why they're still beautiful. So if more people, so.
Okay, so then I guess I take it back. No one take the trains.
Okay.
I have one, or do you have to go next?
I think I have to legally go next, but I don't know what to do yet. Okay. But I'm okay. What's up, everyone? I want to give a huge shout out to dancing, and specifically the move where you put your hands through your hair and shake your head around. I have been finding this move to be so deeply fun and freeing, and when I put my hands in my hair and shake my little head around, I am a 22-year-old girl who is in Europe, even though she is American, and she is having so much fun, and all the boys are looking at her, and she couldn't care less, and yeah, she might make out with them, but only playfully, just for a moment. I am in a shiny top. I am Keira Knightley and Meta like Beckham, and I don't need to be perfect because I'm me. When I am shaking my hair with my hands in my hair, I am rhythmless and yet part of something larger. I am one with the earth and yet an individual. I love doing it. We are not even close to finding all the dance moves that we can do casually and playfully, and we need to keep going to fun bars and experimenting with our bodies. Have fun out there. XOXO, Sam.
I do want to say that a very sort of charming Sam moment was when we were at a gay club in Philly, and I was dancing, and he was like, "Dancing must be so hard for you because you don't have hair that you can move around."
For me, dancing is 90% hair-based.
It's true that I can't do hairography. Oh my God, you know who could actually do incredible hairography? Our guest.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm terrible with my hair when dancing, but maybe I'll try it for the future now. Now that you've given it a shout out.
Yeah. Give yourself a jump start by having just like insane pigtails or something.
Okay,
I'm ready.
It.
Okay, Isle, whenever you're ready, go for it.
What's up, sippers and straw lovers? I'm gonna give a shout out to Campari sodas. A few weeks ago, I was hanging out after a reading, and I looked over and I asked someone what they were drinking, and it was very red, it was very jewel-like, it was very ruby-like, and she said a Campari soda. And I had never heard of actually ordering one of those before out in the world. I didn't know that you could do that. I thought you could make it at home with a LaCroix and some Campari, but no, it happens. They cost too much money, but they look so delicate. They're very fun. You can hold them with the two little tips of your forefingers, and you hold that straw and you sip it lightly. It's very bitter. It's refreshing. It's like having like an energy drink. So you feel hydrated. You feel like you're drinking alcohol, but it's not that much. You can keep the night going. Sometimes you want a Negroni just because you want to hold something red, but no, you should go back to the Campari soda because it's essentially a Negroni, but way more fun. There are bubbles. There's not a single bubble in a Negroni unless you get a Spagliato, but that's done. We're past that. So it's time to spend the last month of summer when it's still hot with a refreshing, red, exciting Campari soda.
Isle, you
That's
are
amazing.
Like in my head. I have been trying to advance the Campari soda agenda for like 3 years. It is my go-to summer drink. They're so good. Yeah. You are so right about wanting a Negroni because you want to hold something red. A Negroni is so alcoholic.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah. I also think it's like better. I think it's a working class Aperol spritz.
Absolutely.
Right? Like it signals to me that like this person isn't rich, right?
By
this
the way,
person
Aperol
didn't come from
Spritz
money.
Is so over and has been over for years.
Yeah. I'm disgusted when I see it on a menu still.
Truly, if you're ordering,
I want to like cross it off myself. I bring a Sharpie with me and I cross it off on menus whenever I see it.
If you're still ordering an Aperol Spritz, you need to get a Grub Street subscription and learn about new trends.
Wow.
All right.
Well, I think this has been an amazing episode. I've certainly learned a lot.
I fully agree. I really have learned a lot. Great. I love to have an intellectual episode where it is learning forward.
Yeah.
And I really honestly can't wait to hear what people think about the new LLL spectrum. Well, folks.
Get People Collide on September 26th.
Yes. 26th. And see Isle on tour. And
mostly in New York.
Mostly in New York.
Yeah. And also LA and Provincetown and Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, fun.
Period. And also, by the way, come see us on tour in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Kisses.
Bye.
Bye.